My goodness, mother-in-law. Did you really come to your husband's funeral wearing that cheap dress? Tiffany. Albright's voice sliced through the heavy silence of the chapel like a knife. Heads turned instantly, eyes darting toward me. That's humiliating, she continued, her tone dripping with contempt. You look like a pauper. I stood there, calm and composed in my simple black gown, one I had carefully chosen for its grace and modesty. To her, it looked inexpensive. What she didn't realize was that this supposedly cheap dress had cost me $80,000. Tiffany, please. My son Marcus whispered tightly beside her. We're here to say goodbye to Dad Dodd. But Tiffany had already found her audience. No, Marcus. Someone has to be honest. I work with high-end designers. I know quality when I see it. And this, she said, pointing at me with a smirk, looks like something from a clearance rack. Your mother clearly has no sense of class. Her friends, Candace and Naomi, nodded along obediently, whispering behind their manicured hands as murmurs spread through the pews. I said nothing. I clasped my hands and pretended her words hurt me deeply, though what I really felt was rage quietly boiling under my skin. Poor Elias. Tiffany sighed dramatically. If only he could see how little respect his widow shows him by showing up like this. What a disgrace to the whole family. What tears began to form in my eyes, but not from grief. They were tears of suppressed anger. This woman was mocking me at my own husband's funeral, not knowing she worked for me. I was the founder and owner of the luxury brand. She represented as a mere sales associate. Just look at her. She kept going. She can't even afford decent clothes. Marcus, maybe you should give your mother some money so she doesn't embarrass us again. I smiled faintly. If only she knew. If only she knew that my wardrobe contained over 200 designer gowns, that my wealth had more zeros than she could count, and that her termination papers already waited in my office. My daughter Belle gently touched my arm. Mom, please don't listen to her. She's being cruel. But I wasn't ready to stop her yet. I needed Tiffany to keep talking, to dig her own professional grave. You know what, Marcus, she said loudly, turning to her husband. When we have kids, I hope they never turn out like your mother. So utterly plain. She gave me a pitying look. Just look at her. She doesn't even know how to dress for a funeral. Candace snickered. It's true. Tiff, I work retail too. And that dress couldn't have cost more than $100. If only they knew. The mother of pearl buttons on that dress alone were worth $500 each. Exactly. Tiffany replied smugly. That's why I say she has no class. At the boutique where I work, we serve elegant women, real women of taste. Marcus stared at his shoes, clearly uncomfortable but too weak to stand up to her. He never did. Tiffany, that's enough, Belle finally said, her voice firm. No, let her speak, I interrupted softly, pretending to tremble. She's right. I don't understand fashion the way she does. Tiffany's eyes sparkled with triumph. At least you admit it. It's not your fault you were born without taste. Just try not to embarrass the family next time. Her little entourage clapped quietly. Naomi added with false sympathy, "Oh, the poor thing. It must be hard not having the money to dress properly." Exactly. Tiffany continued boldly. Imagine showing up to your own husband's funeral, dressed like you're heading to the supermarket. She just has no sense of dignity. The whispers around the room grew louder. What a shame. Poor woman. How embarrassing. Perfect. Every whisper, every condescending glance, every cruel word would make my revenge that much sweeter. And those shoes, Tiffany sneered, pointing at my black pumps. They look like something from a thrift store. I'd be ashamed to wear those out in public. Those shoes, of course, were custom-made, worth $12,000. Listen, mother-in-law, she said with false sweetness, leaning closer. I know you don't have much, but next time you need to dress up, I can lend you something from my wardrobe. I have connections at the best boutiques. The irony almost made me laugh out loud. This woman, who made a modest salary selling my clothes, was offering to lend me dresses. That's very kind of you, Tiffany, I said softly. But I wouldn't want to trouble you. Oh? It's no trouble, she said with a fake smile. It's charity. It's what decent people do. Her friends murmured approval. You're such an angel, Tiff, Candace said. Not everyone would be so generous to someone so limited. Limited. The word echoed in my mind. If only they knew my limitations. Included 17 luxury stores, 3 textile factories, and a fortune exceeding $100 million. Then Tiffany raised her voice again, addressing everyone in the chapel. I think we can all learn something from this. The importance of education and ambition. Mediocrity is a choice. A few people even clapped. My husband's funeral had become her stage. Poor Elias. She sighed dramatically. He always worried about his wife. He used to say he didn't know how she'd survive without him. In that, she was right. Elias had worried about me, but not because I was helpless. He worried because I was too forgiving. He used to tell me, Serafina, when I'm gone, don't let anyone walk over you. And that day, as I stood quietly in the chapel, I made him a silent promise. I wouldn't. After the funeral ended, I drove home in my 2015 Honda Civic, a modest little car that perfectly suited the image I'd crafted over the years. To the world, I was an aging widow with barely enough to get by. What no one knew was that my private garage also housed a Bentley, a Mercedes S-Class, and a Porsche. But appearances were everything. Today, I had to remain the poor mother-in-law Tiffany loved to ridicule. Once inside my small apartment, I slipped off my $12,000 pumps and poured myself a glass of wine. Not just any wine. a vintage Bordeaux's worth $5,000 a bottle. But to everyone else, I was the woman who bought boxed wine on sale at the supermarket. My phone rang. It was my daughter, Belle. "Mom, I'm so sorry for what happened today," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "Tiffany was awful." "Don't worry, sweetheart," I replied calmly. "I'm used to her comments." "But it's not right, Mom. To act like that at Dad's funeral. It's cruel." Belle had no idea about my true financial situation. I had chosen to keep both my children in the dark. It was easier that way. Safer, too. I wanted to see who they were when money wasn't part of the picture. "I'm going to talk to Marcus tomorrow," Belle said determinedly. "I can't let her treat you like that." "No," I said firmly. "Please don't. I don't want to cause any trouble in their marriage." But trouble was already brewing. Tiffany just didn't know it yet. After hanging up, I walked to the one room in my apartment that no one, not even my children, knew existed. Behind a bookshelf was a hidden study, my secret sanctuary. Inside were my true treasures. Contracts for my companies, documents for all 17 boutiques, financial statements, and a cabinet filled with employee files, including one labeled Tiffany Albright. I pulled it out and read through her records. 3 warnings for lateness. 2 customer complaints for rudeness. 1 supervisor's note describing her unwarranted sense of superiority. Perfect. I picked up my private phone, the one I used only for business, and dialed Janice, my HR director. She said gently, "I'm so sorry for your loss." "Thank you, Janice," I replied, my tone cool but composed. "But I need you to handle a personal matter tomorrow." "Of course. What is it?" "Tiffany Albright, sales associate at the downtown boutique. I want a full review of her performance over the last 6 months. Has there been an incident?" "Let's just say," I said quietly, "she's shown a level of disrespect toward customers that I can no longer tolerate." Janice paused. She knew that tone well. "Understood, ma'am. Would you like me to prepare the paperwork for disciplinary action?" "Yes. But we'll wait for the right moment." After hanging up, I sank into my Italian leather chair and allowed myself a slow, satisfied breath. Tiffany's performance at the funeral had been the appetizer. Her professional downfall would be the main course. My late husband, Elias, had always told me that my kindness was both my strength and my weakness. "People will mistake your compassion for fragility," he used to say. "When that happens, show them the difference." For 40 years, Elias and I had been partners in everything, in life and in business. Together, we built our empire quietly, hidden behind the mask of an ordinary family. He had always been my shield. But now, he was gone. And it was time for me to protect myself. The next morning, while Tiffany was busy bragging on social media about her act of kindness toward her poor mother-in-law, I sat in my executive office, reviewing quarterly reports. My personal assistant, Estelle, a sharp, dependable woman who'd been with me for 20 years, entered carrying a silver tray. The monthly reports. Miss Coleman, she said, setting a cup of coffee beside my desk. Thank you, Estelle. How are sales looking at the downtown boutique? Strong numbers overall. The new collection is doing very well. She hesitated for a second. But there are a few issues with personnel, such as Tiffany Albright, she said, checking her notes. She's had multiple complaints from clients. Apparently, she makes comments about who can or can't afford our items. How interesting, I murmured. Anything else? She's been caught, on camera, spending hours on her phone during shifts and arriving late almost daily. And yesterday, security reported her taking photos with merchandise she didn't purchase. Each word was another nail in her professional coffin. Estelle, I said, schedule a meeting with the entire management team of the downtown boutique next Friday. What? May I ask why? I smiled for the first time since the funeral. It's time to make some changes. The week following the funeral was a performance of hypocrisy worthy of an award. Tiffany went around telling anyone who would listen how generous she had been to me, how she had offered to lend me clothes and connections in the fashion world. On Wednesday morning, Marcus called. Mom, he began awkwardly. Tiffany said, she offered to help you update your wardrobe. That was nice of her, right? Yes, I said softly, very kind. Look, Mom, I know things might be hard now that Dad's gone. If you need money. The irony nearly made me laugh. My son offering me financial help when I could buy his entire home with the cash in my safe. I'll be fine, Marcus, I said. Your father left me a pension. I'll manage. Are you sure? Because Tiffany says your apartment's really small and your clothes. She's right, I interrupted gently. I don't have her sense of fashion. He sounded pleased. Yeah, she's great at her job. Her bosses really trust her. She told me she might get promoted soon. A promotion? That was news to me. I smiled to myself. That's wonderful. She must be very talented. She is, Marcus said proudly. When she becomes a junior manager, we'll finally be able to help you out properly. Maybe even take you shopping somewhere nice. Every word was another small wound. How had I raised a man so blind to his wife's cruelty? That's very thoughtful, son, I said quietly. After we hung up, I called Estelle immediately. Estelle, check if there are any upcoming promotions at the downtown boutique. Specifically for Tiffany Albright. None, ma'am, she replied promptly. In fact, her supervisor mentioned putting her on probation for her attitude toward clients. Perfect. Do you have the documentation ready? Yes. Reports, video evidence, and customer statements. Excellent work. One more thing, I added. discreetly look into Tiffany and Marcus's financial situation. Income, debts, expenses. Everything. Estelle didn't ask why. She knew that when I requested background checks, I had good reason. By Thursday afternoon, the results landed on my desk, and they were delightful. Marcus and Tiffany were living far beyond their means. Their rent alone cost more than her monthly salary. They had over $40,000 in credit card debt, a car loan, and had even requested a salary advance the month before. But the best part, they'd applied for a mortgage on a $250,000 house, using Tiffany's upcoming promotion as proof of future income. Their dream home, their entire future, depended on a lie. Friday arrived faster than I expected. That morning, I dressed with deliberate precision, in an understated yet impeccably tailored black Chanel suit I had bought in Paris the previous year. Around my neck, I fastened a strand of genuine Mikimoto pearls. Nothing too extravagant. Yet any fashion connoisseur would immediately recognize their worth. At 10 sharp, I arrived at the downtown boutique. My boutique. "Good morning, Miss Coleman," greeted Diane. The floor supervisor, using my married name, as she always did in public. "The managers are waiting for you in the office." "Thank you." Diane. As I walked through the store, I took my time to observe. Every corner gleamed, every rack was perfectly arranged. My employees moved gracefully, assisting customers with polite smiles. All except one. Tiffany. She leaned against the counter, laughing loudly into her phone. Her uniform was wrinkled, her makeup too heavy, her attitude unprofessional. A glaring flaw in an otherwise flawless setting. "You won't believe this," she said to whoever was on the other end. "My mother-in-law is so pathetic. Marcus told me yesterday, we'll take her shopping once I get promoted. Can you imagine? Teaching a 70-year-old woman how to dress." She giggled, oblivious to the waiting client standing just a few feet away. "Yeah, I work at the most exclusive boutique in the city," she bragged. "My boss adores me. She's even promoting me to junior manager next week." The lies rolled off her tongue effortlessly. So, my mother-in-law shows up to her husband's funeral dressed like a charity case. She continued. Honestly, I was mortified. It looked like she got her dress from a discount store. The customer nearby frowned and quietly walked to another counter. Tired of waiting. "You know what's funniest?" Tiffany went on, lowering her voice. "She actually thought her dress was elegant. Poor thing doesn't know what real fashion is." That was enough. I decided to make my entrance. "Excuse me," I said softly. Tiffany turned around, startled. For a moment, she didn't recognize me in my refined attire. "Oh, mother-in-law," she stammered, covering her phone with her hand. "What are you doing here?" "I came to do a little shopping," I said with a calm smile. "Marcus gave me some money and told me you could help me pick something nice." Her expression shifted immediately. "Helping me improve my image seemed to thrill her. "Oh, of course," she said cheerfully, ending her call. "Let's see what we can find for you, shall we?" She eyed me up and down as though I were a charity project. "First, let's talk budget. How much did Marcus give you? Things here aren't cheap. This isn't one of those bargain shops you usually go to." I lied easily. "He gave me $500. Tiffany burst out laughing. "500? Oh, mother-in-law. That won't buy much here. Maybe a pair of earrings. But don't worry. I'll see what I can do." She led me toward the accessories section, the least expensive part of the boutique. "Look," she said, picking up a silk scarf. "These are $200 each, but they're on sale. They'll add a touch of class to your style." She held the scarf up for me to see, her tone dripping with condescension. "Feel the fabric. That's what real quality feels like. Not those synthetic things you probably wear." I looked at the scarf, one of my own designs from last year's spring collection. I had personally approved its production. "It's very pretty," I said. "Of course it is," Tiffany said smugly. "I have a good eye for this stuff. That's why my bosses are about to promote me." Just then, Diane approached us. "Tiffany, Miss Coleman is waiting for you in the office." Tiffany paled. "Miss Coleman?" "Yes," Diane said. "She arrived a few minutes ago. She said it was urgent." "Oh, right." Tiffany forced a smile. "Tell her I'll be right there." "I'll take care of the lady," Diane offered kindly. Tiffany turned back to me, flustered. "Mother-in-law, I have a very important meeting with my boss. I'll be back soon to help you, okay?" "Of course, dear," I replied sweetly. "Go handle your important business." I watched her hurry upstairs, her heels clicking nervously on the marble floor, completely unaware that she was walking straight into her own downfall. Diane returned to me with a knowing smile. "How was that little performance, ma'am?" she asked quietly. "Better than I expected," I said. "And I assume the cameras caught everything." "Every word," Diane confirmed. "Do you want me to go up now?" "Not yet. Let her wait a while. I want her to wonder where I am." While Tiffany squirmed upstairs, I strolled around my store, observing the rest of my staff. Every employee was focused and professional, except her. I approached a young saleswoman named Chloe, one of our newer hires. "Excuse me," I said gently, pretending to be a regular customer. "What?" "Do you think of the sales associate who was just here? The one with the curly hair?" Chloe looked uneasy. "You mean Tiffany?" "Less." She hesitated, then said carefully, "It's not my place to speak ill of a coworker. I'm just curious," I said with a reassuring smile. She seemed confident. Chloe lowered her voice. "I'd rather focus on helping you, Mom. What can I assist you with today?" Her diplomacy impressed me. "You're new here, right?" I asked. "Yes, ma'am. 6 months now. It's my first job in luxury retail, and I really love it. And how's the work environment? She glanced toward the staircase. Most people are wonderful. Very professional. But some let the boutique's prestige go to their heads. They start treating others differently, even customers, as if they can decide who belongs here. Really? I asked softly. What were you taught during training? That all clients deserve respect, she said firmly. Our boss, Miss Coleman, says true elegance comes from humility, not arrogance. My heart swelled with pride. Your boss sounds like a very wise woman. She is, Chloe said shyly. Though I've never met her in person. Everyone says she built this company from nothing. With hard work and ethics. Just then, I noticed Tiffany coming down the stairs, her face pale and confused. She spotted me immediately and hurried over. Mother-in-law, has no one helped you yet? She exclaimed, annoyed. That's terrible service. This young lady was helping me just fine, I said, gesturing toward Chloe. Tiffany gave her a dismissive glance. Oh, she's new. Doesn't really know what she's doing. I'm the expert here. Chloe stepped back quietly, but I could see in her eyes. She understood everything. Did you find your boss? I asked Tiffany. She wasn't there. Tiffany lied smoothly. But it doesn't matter. She probably just wanted to tell me about my promotion. She always looks for me when something important comes up. Oh, I asked, smiling faintly. How interesting. Well, I said softly, while you wait for your boss, maybe you can keep helping me. Of course, mother-in-law, Tiffany said, brushing imaginary dust off her skirt. But let me tell you something first. When I get promoted to manager, I'm going to change a lot around here, especially the way we deal with customers. Oh, I asked. What kind of changes? For starters, I'm going to introduce a dress code, she announced proudly. What? Can't just let anyone walk in here looking however they want. This is a luxury boutique, not a bargain store. I tilted my head slightly. And what happens if someone doesn't meet your code? I'll politely suggest they shop somewhere more appropriate for their level, she replied with a shrug. It's for the good of the brand, really. Real clients feel uncomfortable seeing people who clearly don't belong here. Interesting philosophy, I murmured. Exactly, Tiffany said, completely serious. My boss will be thrilled when she sees how I'm improving the store's image. She'll probably even give me a bonus. With an exaggerated sweep of her hand, she led me toward the boutique's most exclusive section, the racks where my finest designs were displayed. Now, these dresses, she said reverently, are absolutely stunning. But they're obviously out of your price range. They start around $5,000 and can go up to $15,000. She picked up one of my favorite pieces. A champagne-colored gown with intricate hand embroidery. See this, she said, proudly. This is real hot couture. I actually have one just like it at home. A wealthy client gave it to me as a gift after I helped her find the perfect outfit. That was a bold lie. My employees were forbidden from accepting client gifts, and I personally reviewed every sale. It's beautiful, I said, brushing my fingers over the fabric. Yes, Tiffany said with authority. But definitely not for you. We should look for something simpler. Something that matches your situation. She led me toward the clearance section in the back of the store. Chris, here's where you'll find clothes more in your range. Look, this gray dress is only $400. Perfect for ladies your age. The dress she pointed at was one of my discontinued designs. A piece I had rejected years ago for being substandard. What do you think of this one? I asked. Tiffany sighed dramatically. Honestly, it's not much. But for someone like you, it's fine. You don't really have the figure or the presence for the more exclusive pieces. Her words stung. Not because they insulted me, but because this woman, who represented my brand, thought it acceptable to demean customers like this. You know what, Tiffany? I said quietly. You're probably right. I don't have your sense of style. She smiled, pleased. I'm glad you're finally seeing it that way. That's the first step toward improvement. Tell me something, I said. What would you do if someone came in here dressed simply? Someone who looked poor, but actually had a lot of money. How would you treat them? Tiffany laughed loudly. Oh, mother-in-law, that only happens in movies. Rich people don't pretend to be poor. It's ridiculous. Hypothetically, I pressed. If that did happen. Well, if someone walked in here dressed like you are, it's obvious. They couldn't afford anything expensive. People with real money want to show it. They arrive in luxury cars, wearing designer jewelry. That's how you know. I nodded slowly. Very logical reasoning. Exactly, she said proudly. That's why I'm so good at this job. I can read people instantly. At that exact moment, Estelle walked into the boutique. Always poised and professional, she spotted me immediately and approached. Mayam, she said respectfully, they're waiting for you in the office. Tiffany frowned. Excuse me, who are you? I'm Miss Coleman's personal assistant, Estelle replied. Tiffany blinked, confused. Wait, your boss's assistant. What does my mother-in-law have to do with your boss? Estelle looked at me, silently asking for permission. I nodded. Your mother-in-law is my boss, she said evenly. The color drained from Tiffany's face. The silence was deafening. What? She stammered. What did you just say? You heard me, Estelle replied. Messes. Serafina Coleman is the founder and owner of this entire chain of boutiques. Tiffany turned toward me slowly, her eyes wide with disbelief. No, that's not possible. You live in a tiny apartment. You drive that old Honda. Your clothes. My $80,000 dress. I interrupted gently. The one that offended you so much at my husband's funeral. Her mouth fell open. 80,000. She repeated weakly. Yes. The same one you said looked like something from a clearance rack. And those flea market shoes. They were custom made for 12,000. Her breathing quickened. But I've been working for you for 2 years. That's right, I said. And during those 2 years, I've received multiple reports about your behavior. Estelle reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Would you like me to read them, Mom? Please do, I said, folding my arms. Estelle opened the file and began. Report dated March 15th. Client complained that employee Tiffany Albright ignored her for 20 minutes because she didn't look wealthy enough. Tiffany's voice trembled. That was a misunderstanding. Report dated April 22nd. Estelle continued. A 60-year-old customer was treated with condescension and directed only to clearance items. Each word struck her like a blow. Report dated May 8th. Employee used her personal phone for 2 hours during her shift, neglecting multiple customers. I can explain. Tiffany stammered. What exactly will you explain? Tiffany, I asked calmly. That you humiliated me at my husband's funeral, or that you judge people entirely by appearance. Tears filled her eyes. Ma'am, I didn't know. I swear, if I had. Exactly, I said coldly. That's the problem. Your kindness depends on what people can do for you. Your respect is conditional. I stepped closer, meeting her terrified gaze. Tell me, what would you have done differently at the funeral if you'd known who I really was? I never would have. Never would have what? I pressed. Shown your true character, revealed the person you really are. She broke into sobs. Please, Miss Coleman, it was a mistake. I respect you. I always have. You respected me 5 minutes ago, I said sharply. When you told me I wasn't fit to wear quality clothing. Her voice cracked. That was just your true opinion, I finished for her. Of your husband's mother. The woman who raised the man you claim to love. By now, other employees had begun to gather at a distance, watching silently. Estelle, I said, my voice steady. Read the most recent report. Of course. Ma'am, Estelle replied. Report dated this morning. Employee. Tiffany Albright was recorded, on camera, speaking disparagingly about a customer who turned out to be her own family member. Violating company policy regarding professionalism and privacy. Tiffany looked as though she might collapse. Also, I added, you lied about a promotion to secure a mortgage. A mortgage you can't afford. Her head snapped up. How? How do you know about that? Tiffany, I said simply. I know everything about the people who work for me. Especially when those people are family. Estelle kept reading calmly, her voice steady as Tiffany trembled before us. The financial review, Estelle continued, shows over $60,000 in credit card debt, household expenses exceeding income by more than 300%, and several unreported salary advances. One reported. I repeated, my tone cool but deliberate. Which means you've also falsified company financial records. Tiffany's eyes widened in panic. Ma'am, please. I can explain everything. I needed the money too. To what? I interrupted. To maintain a lifestyle you can't afford. To parade around pretending to be wealthy while mocking others for being poor. Tell me, Tiffany, how does it feel to live a lie? Her sobs echoed through the quiet boutique. Tiffany, I said firmly, I want you to understand something. I'm not upset because you didn't know who I was. I'm upset because of how you treated the person you thought I was. She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. It wasn't my intention to hurt you. No, I replied coldly. It wasn't your intention to expose your true character. But you did. I turned toward Estelle. Do you have the documents ready? Yes, ma'am, she said, holding out a folder. What documents? Tiffany asked, her voice trembling. Your termination papers, Estelle replied. Tiffany froze. No. No, please, you can't do this. I need this job. We have bills, payments. The new house. The house, I said, raising an eyebrow. That you plan to buy with money from a fake promotion. Her voice cracked. Please, Miss Coleman. I swear I'll change. I'll be different. I regarded her for a moment, then said quietly, Tiffany. You're 30, 2 years old. If you haven't learned how to treat people with basic respect by now, you're not going to start today. But I'm your daughter-in-law, she cried. Exactly, I said coldly. Which makes your behavior even more disgraceful. Your Estelle handed me the folder. I opened it slowly and looked her in the eye. Here is your termination letter. Effective immediately. Tiffany shook her head, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. You can't do this. This is revenge. Revenge? I repeated with a faint smile. No, Tiffany, this is accountability. You broke company policy repeatedly. Mistreated clients, falsified records, lied about promotions, and wasted company time. I'm simply enforcing the rules you agreed to when you signed your contract. She fell to her knees, sobbing. Please, Miss Coleman, I beg you. Think about Marcus. If you fire me, it'll ruin our marriage. I looked at her, genuinely astonished. I'll ruin your marriage. Tiffany. You did that yourself the moment you decided to publicly humiliate your husband's mother. Hell hate me, she whispered. He won't understand. Oh, he'll understand perfectly, I said. Especially when he sees the recordings from today. Every word you said about me, every insult, every lie, it's all on video. Estelle nodded discreetly. Security is on their way, Mom. Good, I said calmly. Then I turned back to Tiffany. You have 5 minutes to gather your belongings and hand in your badge. This is an abuse of power, she shouted desperately. You're doing this because you hate me. My tone hardened. No, Tiffany. You abused power when you humiliated an elderly woman at her husband's funeral because you thought she was beneath you. You just never expected that woman to have the power to hold you accountable. From the corner of my eye, I noticed Chloe, the young employee, standing nervously nearby. Chloe, I said softly. Come here. She approached cautiously. Yes? Ma'am? I want you to remember this moment, I told her. This is why we treat every customer with the same respect, no matter how they look. Because we never know who they really are, or what they carry within them. Yes, ma'am, she said, quietly, eyes wide. Tiffany glared at me through her tears. You're going to use me as an example. Exactly, I said coldly. Your arrogance will serve as the perfect lesson for future training sessions. How not to treat people. She let out a bitter laugh through her sobs.
This is humiliating.
Humiliating, I repeated with a hollow smile. You humiliated me at my husband's funeral, in front of our family, my friends, and half the town. And you did it for sport. I was trying to help. But calling me classless. By telling everyone I looked like a beggar. Her tears flowed freely now. Around us, the staff watched silently, some shocked, others quietly satisfied. Diane, the supervisor, stepped forward. Miss Coleman, would you like this incident documented and distributed to the other branches? As a reminder of our customer service policy. Excellent idea, Diane, I said. Let it serve as a warning. Arrogance has no place in my company. Tiffany turned to Diane. Her face twisted with desperation. Please, Diane, you know I'm a good worker. Tell her. Diane sighed. Tiffany, I've warned you before about your attitude, especially with older customers. But I never imagined. Never imagined what? I cut in. That she'd show her true colors so completely. Tiffany said nothing. Her silence was answer enough. You see, I said quietly, you thought you could treat people however you pleased. Because you assumed they were powerless. You thought kindness was optional. At that moment, 2 security guards entered. Miss Coleman, one asked. Yes, I said. Please escort Miss Albright while she collects her things. She no longer works here. They stepped forward. Tiffany backed away, shaking her head. What are you going to tell Marcus? The truth, I said simply. Everything. He won't care, she said weakly. He loves me. I gave a small, sad smile. Then I suppose we'll see whether he loves the woman you really are, or just the image you've built. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. As she was led toward her locker, I turned to my staff. Everyone, please listen, I said clearly. In In this company, every customer is to be treated as the most important person in the room. It doesn't matter how they dress, what they drive, or how much they spend. Respect is not a luxury. It's a standard. The employees nodded solemnly. Do you know why? I asked. Chloe spoke softly. Because it's the right thing to do. Exactly, I said, smiling faintly. And because we never know who's standing before us. Estelle approached quietly. Mom, shall I schedule a meeting with Marcus this afternoon? Yes, I said, my voice softening. It's time my son learned the truth. At that, Tiffany, who had been listening as she packed her things, spun around. No, please, don't tell him. Let me explain. Explain what? I asked sharply. You've lied enough. You've had years to tell the truth. She shook her head violently as the guards took her arm. You can't do this to me. I'll fight it. Please do, I said coldly. Ooh. It'll be fascinating to watch you explain your behavior to a judge. Her face went white. A judge? Yes, I said. For defamation, falsifying records, and creating a hostile work environment. I have more than enough evidence to prove it. Her knees nearly buckled. The guards guided her toward the exit as the boutique fell silent. I could feel the air shift. Part shock, part awe. When the doors finally closed behind her, I looked around the room and said softly, well, I think we all learned something valuable today. Later that afternoon, I sat quietly in my apartment, preparing myself for the most difficult conversation of all. The one with my son. At 5 o'clock sharp, Marcus arrived, his face pale and worried. Mom, he said, his voice strained. Tiffany came home in tears. She said she was fired. And that you were behind it. Tell me that's not true. Sit down, Marcus, I said softly. What I'm about to tell you will change how you see a lot of things. He hesitated, then sank into the same sofa where he had sat countless times as a child. The same sofa where I'd once comforted him after scraped knees and broken hearts. She told me something insane, he said nervously. She said you own the boutique where she worked. That can't be true, right? I took a deep breath. It's true. His brow furrowed. What? How? Since when? Since long before you were born, I said gently. For most of your life. I've kept the truth about our family's wealth hidden. He stared at me, speechless. Come with me, I said, standing up. It's time you saw who your mother really is. I walked to the bookshelf and pressed a hidden panel. The shelf slid open, revealing the entrance to my private study. The room no one in my family had ever seen. Marcus stepped inside, his eyes wide with shock as he took in the mahogany desk, the certificates, the contracts, and the framed photographs of my boutiques around the world. Mom, he whispered, what is all this? This, I said, spreading my arms, is the empire your father and I built over 40 years. 17 boutiques. 3 textile factories, and more wealth than you could ever imagine. He turned toward me, completely stunned. You're telling me? We've been rich this whole time. Yes, Marcus, I said quietly. We've been wealthy for decades. Then, why? He demanded. Why did we live like we had nothing? Why did you hide it? I met his gaze firmly. Because I wanted you and your sister to grow up with real values. To understand humility, hard work, and respect. The things money can't buy. He sank into a chair, running a hand through his hair. I can't believe this. All this time you let me think we were just ordinary. You were ordinary, I said softly. That's what kept you grounded. And your father agreed with me. We wanted you both to learn who you were without wealth clouding your character. He was quiet for a long time. Then his voice softened. And Tiffany being fired. What does that have to do with all this? That, I said, is what I've been waiting to explain. I picked up a folder from my desk. The same one Estelle had handed me that morning, and placed it in front of him. Your wife has worked for me for 2 years, I said. During that time, she's received multiple complaints from customers and supervisors for being rude, judgmental, and unprofessional. He frowned. That can't be right. She told me she's one of the top employees. She told you a lot of things, I said, opening the folder. Here are the reports. He leaned forward, scanning the documents. This says, she ignored a 60-year-old customer because she didn't look rich enough. That's true, I finished. And it's only one of several reports. He looked up, his face pale. There must be some mistake. I handed him another paper. Then read this one. And this. And this. One by one, he flipped through the stack. Each report painted the same picture. A woman obsessed with appearances, quick to belittle anyone she considered beneath her. Finally, I said quietly, but her behavior at work isn't the worst part. He looked up warily. Then what is? What she did to me, I said, my voice trembling slightly despite my calm expression. At your father's funeral, she mocked me. She told everyone I was an embarrassment to the family because of my dress. She called me classless, a pauper, all while standing beside your father's coffin. Marcus went rigid. Mom, she said she was only trying to help you. Help me, I repeated bitterly, by calling me pathetic, by making the most painful day of my life into her fashion lecture. I thought she meant well, he whispered. You thought she meant well because you assumed she was right, I said. Because even you've let her arrogance influence you. You didn't stand up for me, Marcus. He said nothing, his shoulders slumping. You're right, he admitted softly. I didn't, and I should have. I nodded slowly. Do you know what else I found out today? He looked up, uncertain. She lied about a promotion that doesn't exist. She used that lie to apply for a mortgage you can't afford. She's been living off loans and credit cards while pretending to be someone she's not. He blinked rapidly. "Ho! How do you know that?" I gave a faint smile. "I'm a businesswoman, Marcus. When someone attacks me, I make sure to know everything about them." I handed him the financial report Estelle had prepared. He read it silently, then buried his face in his hands. "Oh God," he whispered. "This is a nightmare." "Your wife," I said quietly, "has been living a fantasy, and she dragged you into it." He looked up, his voice breaking. "What do I do now?" "That depends on what kind of man you want to be," I said simply. "What do you mean?" "You can stay with her. Pretend none of this happened. Or you can face the truth and decide whether you want to build your life on lies or values." "She's my wife," he said weakly. "And I'm your mother," I replied firmly. "The woman who raised you, who taught you respect, compassion, and integrity. The same woman your wife chose to humiliate in public." He went silent again, staring at the papers in front of him. "What do you want me to do?" he asked finally. "I don't want you to do anything," I said. "I want you to choose, based on what you know now, and then live with that choice. And if I choose to stay with her, then you'll have to accept the consequences," I said softly. "Because some choices change the course of a lifetime." He nodded slowly, tears brimming in his eyes. "I need time to think." "Take the time you need," I said. "But remember, Marcus, the time to do what's right never lasts forever." 2 days later, I received a call from Belle. Her voice carried both anger and confusion. "Mom," she said, "Marcus told me everything. Is it true? About the companies, the money, all of it?" "Yes," I replied softly. "It's all true." "I can't believe you kept that from us," she said, half laughing, half crying. "All these years, I thought we were barely scraping by." "It was the only way to raise you right," I said gently. "Your father and I agreed. We wanted you both to learn compassion before privilege." Belle was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "I understand now, and honestly, I'm proud of you. But Mom, Marcus is devastated." "I know," I said. "He came here, we talked. He told me Tiffany's been fired." "Yes," I said. "That's correct." "Good," Belle said sharply. "She deserved it. The way she treated you at the funeral, unforgivable." I'll never forget the look on her face when she called your dress cheap. "I don't hold grudges, Belle," I said. "But I do believe in consequences." "Well, she's finally getting hers," Belle said bitterly. "Marcus said she's been calling him nonstop, crying, begging him to talk to you. I expected she would." "Are you going to?" "I'll think about it," I said calmly. Not because she deserves forgiveness, but because closure can sometimes be more powerful than revenge. Belle sighed again. "Mom, I don't know how you stay so calm through all of this. I smiled faintly. When you've lived long enough, you learn that people's true colors always reveal themselves. It just takes patience. That evening, as if on cue, my phone rang. The caller ID read Tiffany Albright. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Hello, Tiffany." Her voice was hoarse, almost unrecognizable. "Miss Coleman, please. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need to speak with you." "You already have," I said quietly. "Several times. At the funeral. At the boutique. You had plenty to say then." "I was wrong," she said, her voice trembling. "I was so wrong. Please, I beg you, hear me out." I didn't reply. She continued, words tumbling out between sobs. "I lost everything. The job, the house, Marcus. He's staying with his sister. He won't even talk to me." "That's unfortunate," I said calmly. "But I warned you that choices have consequences." "I know," she said. "I know I've been horrible. I judged people by what they wore, by how much money they had. I thought appearances were everything. But now I see how empty that life was." For the first time, I heard something genuine in her voice. Real remorse, not the performative kind she used to impress others. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness," she said quietly. "I know I don't deserve it. But I just want you to know. I've learned my lesson. I'll never look down on anyone again." I remained silent for a long moment. Then I said softly, "Tiffany, do you remember what you told me at the funeral?" There was a pause. "Yes." "You said you'd lend me something from your wardrobe because you felt sorry for me." "I remember," she whispered. "And I'm ashamed of it." "You should be," I said, my tone gentle but firm. "Because pity without respect isn't kindness. It's vanity dressed up as compassion." Tiffany began crying harder. "I deserve everything that's happening to me. I wish I could take it back." "You can't," I said. "But you can change what happens next. If you've truly learned, prove it. Not to me. To yourself." "Miss Coleman," she said desperately. "Ooh, I don't have a job. I don't have anywhere to go. I'll work anywhere. Even as a cleaner, a cashier. Anything. Please, I'll do better this time." I closed my eyes, weighing her words. Part of me still burned with anger. But another part remembered what Elias used to tell me. Strength isn't in punishing, Serafina. It's in knowing when to forgive. "I can't rehire you," I said finally. "But I'll give you a reference letter. One that speaks only to your skills, not your character. You'll have to rebuild that on your own." Her voice broke. You do that for me?" "Yes," I said. "Not for you, for Marcus. And because I believe everyone deserves a chance to change." There was a long silence before she whispered, "Thank you." "Don't thank me," I said. "Thank the person you're going to become. The one who finally understands that respect isn't about wealth or beauty. It's about heart. She sniffled. I'll never forget this. I hope not, I said softly. Because, if you do, life will remind you again. And the lesson will be even harder next time. After she hung up, I sat in silence for a long time, staring at the photograph on my wall. Elias, smiling beside me at one of our store openings. You'd be proud of me, my love, I whispered. I didn't let her destroy what we built. But I didn't let anger destroy me either. The next morning, Marcus called. She came by, he said quietly. She told me everything. She's different, Mom. Broken, but different. She needed to be broken before she could grow, I said. He sighed. I don't know what to do. I still love her, but you can't trust her? I finished. Less, he admitted. Exactly. Then don't make any decisions yet, I said gently. Let her prove herself through actions, not words. You'll know what's right when the time comes. There was a pause. Then, softly, he said, Thank you, Mom. For everything? Always, I said. That's what mothers do. We teach our children. Even when it hurts. When the call ended, I walked to the window. The morning sun streamed through, warm and golden. For the first time since the funeral, I felt at peace. Elias had been right all along. Kindness without weakness is the greatest strength of all. And as I looked out at the world, I smiled to myself, whispering the lesson Tiffany, and everyone else, would never forget. Never judge a person by what they wear or own. The richest hearts often beat beneath the simplest clothes. A week's passed. The world quieted down. But the echoes of what had happened still lingered. The funeral, the humiliation, the confrontation. All of it had burned a permanent scar into my memory. And yet, strangely, I felt lighter. I visited Elias's grave one calm Sunday morning. The sky was overcast, but soft rays of sunlight peeked through the clouds, bathing his headstone in gentle light. I brought fresh lilies, his favorite, and knelt beside him. I kept my promise. I whispered. I didn't let anyone walk over me. But I didn't let bitterness win either. The cemetery was quiet except for the rustle of leaves and distant birdsong. I brushed a speck of dust from his name, tracing the engraved letters with my fingertips. I miss you every day, I murmured. But I can still hear your voice, reminding me to lead with grace, not pride. Even when others forget their manners, a soft breeze passed over my face, like a silent acknowledgement. Later that week, Belle stopped by for dinner. She was smiling again, the kind of warm, steady smile that reminded me of her father. I talked to Marcus today, she said, helping me set the table. He's doing better. I'm glad, I said. And Tiffany? She's working again, Belle said, sitting down. Not in luxury retail this time. She's at a small community clothing store. I think she's learning what humility feels like. I nodded. That's good. Every lesson life gives us costs something. The only question is whether we pay attention. Belle looked at me thoughtfully. Do you think you'll ever forgive her? I smiled faintly. I already have. Really? Yes, I said. Forgiveness isn't saying what she did was okay. It's choosing not to carry her ugliness inside me anymore. I've carried enough grief. Belle reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're stronger than I'll ever be. I shook my head. No, sweetheart. You're strong in your own way. Just remember, strength doesn't always mean fighting back. Sometimes, it means standing still and letting the truth do the fighting for you. After she left that night, I sat by the window with a cup of tea, watching the streetlights flicker outside. My thoughts drifted back to Tiffany. The arrogance, the fall, the apology. I didn't hate her. In some strange way, I pitied her. Because I knew what she hadn't yet learned. That the truest form of wealth isn't found in designer labels or big houses. It's found in dignity, integrity, and the ability to stand tall even when others try to drag you down. A few days later, I received a small envelope in the mail. Inside was a handwritten note from Tiffany. Dear Miss Coleman, you were right about everything. I used to believe that status made me important. Now I understand that respect, humility, and kindness are worth far more than any dress or handbag. I've started volunteering at a shelter where we help women find clothes for job interviews. I think it's helping me become the person I should have been all along. Thank you. Not for what you gave me, but for what you took away my arrogance. Sincerely, Tiffany. I read the letter twice, then folded it neatly and placed it in my desk drawer, beside one of Elias's old handkerchiefs. See? I whispered toward his photograph. Even she's learning. For the first time in months, I felt a peace that reached deep inside me. The kind of peace that comes only when you know the battle is over. And you've won not by destroying someone, but by teaching them. As I closed the drawer, I looked around my modest apartment, the one everyone assumed was all I had, and smiled. They could keep their luxury cars, their glittering jewelry, their empty pride. I had something infinitely greater, self-respect. And in that quiet moment, I realized that this, not the money, not the power, not the victory, was my true inheritance from Elias. I raised my teacup toward his photo and whispered, "Rest well, my love. The lesson has been learned." Then, softly, I repeated the words that would forever define my story. The truth every person should remember before judging another. Never measure a person's worth by what they wear. True elegance begins with the heart.